every year is my year.
Conor McGregor, you're taking everything I work for.
Unbelievable, the first punch he threw. Nate Diaz has never looked better.
We're not here just to take part, we're here to take over.
We are counting you down to UFC 202. Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor. All of the undercards are done, so those guys should be in the octagon in Vegas coming up here in just a little bit. If you missed it on the undercard that just happened, Anthony Johnson with a bone-crushing uppercut that took out Glover Teixeira in the first round. So explosive fireworks already in Vegas tonight. We expect more of the same with McGregor and Diaz. We've got Frankie Edgar going to be here in studio. We've got our pal Gilbert Melendez in Vegas. He'll join us as well. Punching in the face going on tonight in the world of sports.
All right, so McGregor confident for a win Saturday night. For more, let's head out to Las Vegas and bring in MMA insider Brett Okamoto. Now, Brett, a lot of times in the fight game we see forced tension. This has seemed pretty genuine from the start. What's behind all of this?
I think you saw two things at play here. One, let's not kid ourselves. These guys are selling a fight. So images of them throwing water bottles back and forth at one another, that always helps your bottom line when you're trying to sell pay-per-views. But I think the other aspect of this is you got two guys who do not want to give an inch to the other one. So if Conor McGregor shows up 30 minutes late to a press conference, in Nate Diaz's mind, he's like, well, I get to leave 30 minutes early from this press conference. I'm not doing any more work than this guy. I am the A side of this fight. So you got two alpha males who are basically battling each other before they even step in the octagon.
UFC President Dana White seemed pretty upset with all of this. How can he get a handle on these guys?
Yeah, I don't know. You can find him if you really want to, but I don't think public perception would be all that happy with it. And I think once Dana White settles down, takes a look at this thing, realizes no one got hurt. I mean, I think that's one thing that's going through his mind. You got guys throwing full cans of Monster Energy. He's worried about someone getting hurt. He's thinking about a headline that way. But once he finds out that that has not happened, he's going to realize what I started off by saying, that this is going to help sell the fight at UFC 202.
And sticking with Dana White, yesterday he joined SportsCenter and kind of hinted that Jon Jones may be able to overturn his 2-year suspension. Here's a portion of those comments on SportsCenter.
Things have taken a turn, and you know, it's looking a little more positive than it was. He had tested positive for something that you get on when you come off of steroids, but that might not be the case now. I got to let this thing play out between USADA and the Nevada State Athletic Commission, but this guy's got like 12 lives. It's unbelievable.
Jones never seems to go away even when we think he's in trouble. What's going on here exactly?
Well, we don't still know a whole lot of specific details about what Jones is saying here because he's in the middle of an appeals process. And as long as that is the case, he and his camp are not going to offer a lot of details as to what their defense is. Now, what I'm hearing from Dana White is you know, he's basically saying, you know, we all thought when we saw the banned substance that Jones tested positive for that perhaps he was cheating. That is no longer the case. It does not look as though he was cheating. However, when you're testing positive for a banned substance, sometimes that doesn't matter. As long as the substance is in your system, you are held accountable. So we still have to see what happens with Jones's potential 2-year suspension.
It's been a very busy week and a busy day out there in Las Vegas. Brett, we appreciate the time.
Conor McGregor's opponent for UFC 196 in Vegas will be Nate Diaz, filling the void left by the injured Rafael dos Anjos.
Everyone else went running. So, Nate, congratulations. You're rich now.
I don't give a what you say, motherfucker.
I'm not trying to play no games or nothing. There is no games in this. I'm just simply the best fighter, and that's it.
Nate Diaz is going to be the most difficult test of Conor McGregor's career.
Well, this is what the world was hoping for.
And a good left hand over the top by Conor.
Conor the aggressor here early.
I had the boy bust up badly, and then just like that, it can turn him.
Now he's got the back now! That's it! He's got the chain! Diaz! He's done it! It's all over! Nate Diaz beats Conor McGregor!
You just shook up the world. How's that feel? I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
It is what it is. I'll face it like a man, like a champion, and come back and do it again.
No way they could just leave it at that. Nate Diaz and Conor McGregor had to have a rematch, and it's this Saturday at UFC 200. 202. Remember, they were supposed to headline UFC 200, but McGregor tweeted that he was retiring from the UFC. So President Dana White pulled McGregor from that card. However, just 2 days after that announcement, McGregor reversed course, saying that he was ready to fight in UFC 200. Yet Dana White stood firm and said the fight would not happen. Eventually, an agreement was reached. The major difference for this one, Diaz has had plenty of time to prepare. Remember, in the first bout, he only had 11 days as he was a late injury replacement. Let's go out now to Las Vegas and welcome in Gilbert Melendez, who trains with Nate Diaz and will be in his corner on Saturday night. Now, Gilbert, you had a chance to talk to Nate after today's fireworks at the press conference. What did he have to say?
Well, you know, Nathan was there on time, excited to be at the press conference and do what he had to do. And, you know, I think he felt it was fair, you know, to step out and leave. You know, he answered all the questions he could do. And he felt he was disrespected by Conor going out there and showing up late. So, you know, he started stepping out. Some trash talking happened in both ways. Bottles went flying. I mean, it was a spectacle. It's part of the fight game. But, again, you know, Nate felt like he did his part. And it was fair for him to step out of there. And he did all he had to do and answer all the questions he had to do.
Well, it will certainly be a spectacle inside the octagon on Saturday. This time, as you very well know, Nate has had sufficient time to train. Previously, it was 11 days. Now we're good to go with ample opportunity. In what way will Nate Diaz be different in this fight?
Well, with the full training camp, you're allowed to prepare. And that means he gets to sharpen the tools he already had in the first bout, meaning he gets to run more, he gets to swim more, he gets to bike more, and he also gets to spar more. With a lot of sparring rounds, you become a better fighter. Why? Because your form becomes sharper, your timing becomes better, you gauge your distance. So we're going to see the same Nate Diaz, but a lot more sharp out there. Again, he had 2 weeks notice last time, and I think with the full training camp, he'll just be a complete fighter, the same complete fighter he was the last fight, but you'll see him way sharper.
And despite the short notice, obviously Nate won the previous fight. What changes from Conor is your team expecting in this rematch?
Well, we're expecting Conor to come in better shape, looking to throw his punches and have a higher punch count, but as well as not throw his harder punches. He's going to try to be elusive at times as well. But we also know Conor isn't an elusive fighter. He's not a footwork type of guy. So eventually we know they're going to stand toe-to-toe. And again, Nate just has to do what he did last time, is control the distance, land his 1-2, make Conor miss, make Conor take a bad shot, make a mistake, and capitalize.
And this was McGregor's first loss since coming over to the UFC. Also the first time he had to go up in weight. You're expecting him to be in better shape. But as a fighter, how does that going up in weight affect your approach to a bigger opponent?
Well, now we know that Conor cannot finish Nate. Or it's a possibility, but he didn't. So he has to anticipate that it could be a longer fight. This is not a sprint. It's a marathon. So he has to pace himself. So the smaller fighter needs to take a little off his punches, pick his punches wisely, and understand that he needs to find the perfect target, because that's the only way it can really change the momentum of the fight against Nate Diaz.
Diaz won the first fight, but McGregor's still a slight favorite at the sports books out there in Las Vegas. Gilbert, we appreciate the time. Good luck to your team, and maybe we'll see more fireworks between now and Saturday night.
McGregor will at least be a little bit humble because he got his butt whooped. That's not the case.
No, you said that in the pre-show meeting, and
so wrong.
Half the room was like, oh, no, this is going to be so ugly. You're like, no, I think he's humbled himself. They think he found a thing called Zen. Not so much. So Saturday's UFC 202 is going to be a lot of fun. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, Brett Okamoto, and we have more from Vegas. And Gilbert Melendez have more from Vegas.
Here in Las Vegas for the UFC 202 press conference on Wednesday, and what a press conference it was. Brett Okamoto alongside Gilbert Melendez. You had Conor McGregor showing up late to the press conference, and irritated Dana White. Nate Diaz deciding, you know what, I'm going to leave this press conference early. Water bottles are thrown. People are ducking, running for cover. Gil, you train with Nate Diaz. You know him just as well as anybody. What did you make of the mayhem that we saw on Wednesday?
I thought it was great. You know, Nathan showed up early, showed up on time. You know, he is the A side of the show. You know, so he feels like he doesn't need to stay there. He answered all the questions he needed to answer. I thought it was fair for him to get up and leave. You know, for all the stuff that happened afterwards, hey, that's the fight biz, and that's what happens.
Take us into the mind a little bit of Nate Diaz. This is a guy who has, done his thing for over a decade and never really been at the pinnacle of the sport as he is now. Now all of the attention is on him. He's fighting Conor McGregor, who is looked at as the greatest star in this sport at the current moment. What is going through his head right now?
I think he's excited. I've been hanging out with him. He's very loose. He's very lax. Even after the whole altercation out there, we giggled about it a little bit, But Nate's the type of guy, growing up, it's part of his personality. You push him, he's going to confront you, and he's going to push back twice as hard. And that's what he does with everybody, and it translates perfectly in the octagon, and that's what he's doing here. He's not letting Conor push him around. We talked about the mental warfare of Conor. That was a big topic in their first fight and his previous fights. But what about the mental warfare of Nate Diaz and what he did today?
Mental warfare, I think that's a great way to sum it up, and it has been entertaining to watch already, and it's only Wednesday. The fight is at UFC 202 on Saturday at the T-Mobile Arena.
All right, Brett and Gilbert. It's a rematch nearly 6 months in the making. Diaz, McGregor, Part 2 at UFC 202 this Saturday in Las Vegas. Diaz, he beat McGregor back in March via submission, the same way he's won 8 other fights during his career. Now, McGregor, meanwhile, relies on his striking as he owns 6 career knockouts.